In this video, we're going to be talking about using the percent proportion. It's another way to solve percent problems. So our essential questions are, what is the percent proportion? And how do you use the percent proportion to solve problems? So here I want to go back to the percent model that we used in previous videos. Here it shows that there are two equivalent ratios on the same model when we model percents. On the top here we have a part to whole comparison. So this green shaded in part is the part of the entire bar that's filled in, and the whole is the entire thing. So that ratio is right here. This is a fraction part to whole comparison. And then that same ratio is in the bottom, and this would be the percent out of 100, where 100 is the whole. And we see that we have two equivalent ratios here, a part to whole comparison and a percent to 100 comparison. And these two ratios will form a proportion, and that is our percent proportion. So this proportion can be used to solve all types of percent problems. Part over whole is equal to percent out of 100. And we know how to solve proportions, so we can use that to solve multiple types of problems. So how do you use the percent proportion to solve problems? Well, the first thing we need to do is identify what's missing in the problem. Now, we can have three things missing in any typical percent problem. We can have the part that's missing, the whole is missing, or the percent is missing, and then we can use the proportion to solve to find any one of those three. And then we just fill in what we know in the percent proportion, if we know the whole in the percent, or the part in the percent, or the part in the whole. And then lastly, we will solve the proportion. And we have strategies for solving proportions. Remember, we can use vertical relationships, horizontal relationships, or we can use the cross products to solve those proportions. So let's take a look at an example here. What is 30% of 80? So if I modeled this question here on my double ratio bar graph here, I've got in the top, I don't know how much out of 80 that is. I'm asking what is 30% of 80. So how much out of 80 is equivalent to 30% out of 100? So we can set up a proportion here that makes these two relationships equal. So identify what's missing in the problem. Well, this is the whole, and this is the percent. So percent. So the part is missing. How much out of the whole? That's what we want to find out. So what's missing? 30 is the percent, 80 is the whole, so the part is missing. So here is my my percent proportion. So I know the whole and I know the percent, and the part is missing. I don't know. So I filled in what I knew here. So this 80 is the whole, and the 30 is the percent, and that goes there, and it's always out of 100, so that'll always be 100. And then I put an X here because I don't know the part that's missing. So this looks like a proportion that we've solved before. So here's the proportion that I'm going to solve. I'm going to use the cross products to solve this. So I take 80 times 30, and that's 2,400. So I also know that 100 times X has to be 2,400. So 100 times X is 2,400. So to figure out what X is, I take 2,400 divided by 100, and that tells me that X is 24. So then I conclude that 24 is 30% of, not 100, 80. 24 is 30% of 80. So we solved that percent problem using the percent proportion. So we've got three different scenarios we could use the percent proportion for. One of them is when the part is missing. So I've got several examples of problems where the part is missing. So here, what is 4% of 350? So first of all, we need to identify what we know and what's missing. Well, you already know the part is missing, but I'm going to walk you through this. 4%, this is obviously the percent. That's easy to identify, of 350. So out of 350, this is the whole. So then what is, that's the part. The part is missing. So I put an X on the part, 350 is the whole, and 4 is the percent. So I fill in the percent proportion with all the parts that I know, and then I go ahead and solve this. So I'm going to use cross products to solve this. 350 times 4 is 1,400. So I know that this other cross product, 100 times X, has to equal 1,400. X is 1,400 divided by 100. X is 14. So what is 4% of 350? 14 is 4% of 350. So we use the percent proportion to solve that problem. Next one, what number is 62% of 50? So again, I know my percent. of 50 out of 50. This is the whole. And then what number is, this is the part, what number is 62% of 50? So again, I filled in all of the pieces that I knew here. Here's the whole. Here's the percent. This is always 100, and the part is missing. So here I'm going to use a horizontal strategy because there's a nice relationship here. 100 divided by 2 is 50. So in the numerator, 62 divided by 2 should tell me what x is, and 62 divided by 2 is 31. So x equals 31. So what number is 62% of 50? 31. 31 is 62% of 50. Next one, 40% of 25 is what number? Again, the percent is easy to find. This is percent of 25. Out of 25 is the whole. Is what number? The part is missing. So again, I set up my proportion with all the parts that I know. And again, there's a nice horizontal relationship here. 100 divided by 4 is 25. And 40 divided by 4 would tell me what x is. And 40 divided by 4 is 10. So 40% of 25 is 10. 40% of 25 is 10. And then the last one, what is 37.5% of 8? And again, the percent is 37.5 of 8 out of 8. So the 8 is the whole. And what is the part? What is the part? So again, I set up my proportion, and I'm going to use cross products again to solve this. 8 times 37.5 is 300. So I know that x, 100 times x is 300. So x is 300 divided by 100, which is 3. So what is 37.5% of 8? 3. 37.5% of 8 is 3. So here I have a pro tip. When you're interpreting these word problems, the word of will typically be next to the whole. Of 8, of 25, of 50, of 350, out of, that typically tells you what the whole is. And then the word is will usually be next to the part. What is what number is, what is. So those are some good context clues to help you identify the difference between the part and the whole. Of course, the percent is always easy to identify because it's the number that has the percent symbol after it. So let's take a look at some examples. When the whole is missing, what do those problems look like? 36 is 72% of what number? So again, now we can see 36 is, this is the part, of what? We don't know the whole, and then the percent is easy to identify, 72%. So 36 is 72% of what? So then I plug in my pieces here. There's the part, here's the percent, and the whole is missing. So again, there's a nice horizontal relationship here. 72 divided by 2 is 36. So 100 divided by 2 will tell me my answer, and 100 divided by 2 is 50. So there's my answer. 36 is 72% of 50. 36 is 72% of 50. 80% of what number is 15? So again, here's my percent. That's the easiest one to find. Of what? The whole is missing. Is 15? That's the part. So 15 out of what would be 80%. And then I again set up my proportion, putting the parts in that I know. And then I'm going to use cross products to solve this one. 100 times 15 is 1500. And I know that x times 80 has to be 1500. 80 times x is 1500. So to find out what x is, I take 1500 divided by 80. And 1500 divided by 80 is 18.75. So 80% of 18.75 is 15. 80% of 18.75 is 15. 21 is 84% of what number? 21 is, this is the part, of what? The whole is missing. And obviously this is the percent because it has the percent sign after it. So again, I set up my proportion. Here's the part. Here's the whole, which is missing, and 84 is the percent. There's a nice horizontal relationship here. 21 times 4 is 84. Actually, I should do that backwards. I'm trying to solve this way. 84 divided by 4 is 21, so 100 divided by 4 will tell me what x is. 100 divided by 4 is 25. So 21 out of 25 is 84%. So 25 is my answer there. And last one, 28 is 35% of what number? And 21 is, this is the part, 35% is my percent of what the whole is missing here. So I fill in the proportion accordingly, and I'm going to use my cross products to solve this. 100 times 28 is 2,800. So I know that 35 times x is 2,800. And to find out what x is, I'm going to take 2,800 divided by 35, and 2,800 divided by 35 is 80. So 28 is 35% of 80. 28 is 35% of 80. And these are all examples of problems where the whole is missing. And then lastly, what if the percent is missing? This one's a little easier to identify because there's no number that has the percent symbol on it. So 24 is what percent of 32? So here we have to identify the part and the whole. 24 is, there's that word is, that's the part, of 32, out of 32. So this is the whole, and then what percent. So the percent is missing. So I put my part, the whole, and I put an X here for the percent. And I'm going to use cross products to solve this one. 100 times 24 is 2,400. And so I know 32 times X equals 2,400. So X would be 2,400 divided by 32. And that gives me 75. Now, when the percent is missing, we have to be careful here and make sure that we put a percent symbol on our answer because we were looking for a percent. So 24 out of 32 basically is what percent? That's 75%. 24 out of 32 is 75%. And again, what percent of 230 is 23? So again, the percent is missing. Of 230, out of 230, that tells me that's the whole. And is 23, that's the part. So 23 out of 230 is what percent here? Here, there's a nice vertical relationship. 230 divided by 10 is 23. So 100 divided by 10 would tell me the percent. 100 divided by 10 is 10. So X is 10. And again, we were looking for the percent, so I better put a percent sign on that. X is 10%. So 23 out of 230 is 10%. What percent of 25 is 23? So again, the percent is missing. What percent of 25, that's the whole, is 23, that's the part. So 23 out of 25 is how much out of 100? So there's a nice horizontal relationship here between ratios. 25 times 4 is 100. So 23 times 4 will tell me my answer, and 23 times 4 is 92. So X equals 92%. 23 out of 25 is a 92%. And lastly, 8 is what percent of 400? 8 is, that's the part, of 400, that's the whole, and then what percent? The percent is missing. So I put all the pieces in this proportion, and then I can solve. Again, a nice horizontal relationship here. 400 divided by 4 is 100. So 8 divided by 4 will tell me what X is, and 8 divided by 4 is 2. And again, I'm looking for a percent, so I put 2%. 8 is 2% of 400. 8 is 2% of 400. So what does this look like in real world problems? A sweater is on sale for $33. This is 75% of the original price. Find the original price. So when it's saying this is, we're talking about the $33. So the $33 is 75% of the original price. So this is the part of the original price. The original price is the whole, and 75% is obviously the percent. So the whole is missing. The original price is the whole. The $33 is the part. So I fill in my proportion here, and then I use cross products to solve this one. 100 times 33 is 3,300. And that tells me that 75 times X is 3,300. So X will be 3,300 divided by 75. So X is 44. Now I have to look back at the problem. Well, 44 what? So we're looking for the original price. So we're talking about money. So the original price was $44. The original price of the sweater was $44 before the sale. And then finally, in a school band of 24 students, 9 students play brass instruments. What percent of the members play brass instruments? So what percent? We're looking for the percent. So the percent is missing. And 24 is the whole, that's the whole group. And part of that group is 9 students that play brass instruments. So this is the part, 24 is the whole group, and we're looking for what percent. So 9 out of 24 is what percent? And I'm going to use cross products here again to solve this one. 100 times 9 is 900. So I know that 24 times x is 900. So x is going to be 900 divided by 24. And 900 divided by 24 is 37.5. And again, we were looking for a percent. So it's 37.5% of the band play brass instruments. So that is using the percent proportion to solve percent problems, either when the part is missing, the whole is missing, or the percent is missing.